Thank you very much. I'm Anthony DeKaida. I'm the CEO of Villa Charities. Today we've got the executive team here, Mary Pompili to my left, who's our VP of Marketing and Communications, Marco De Buono, who's our CFO, and Emmanuel Lepre, who's our Executive Director of Cultural Programming. I'd like to start by saying we hope that all of you and your families are safe, are healthy during this difficult time. It's been very challenging and frustrating, I'm sure, for all of us. The purpose this morning is to really answer your questions and share some information that we have with you about the opening and the preparations that we're doing. I'd also like to tell you that during this time, we've been working very hard internally to keep everybody in the Villa Charities family informed. I hope you sign up for our new newsletter if you're not a subscriber already. It's the primary source of us sharing information with people. We're watching the government right now in terms of what the government is planning. We've also been doing research in terms of what other provinces have been doing who may be ahead of us, and looking at other countries for what options they're putting forward and how they're rolling out their reopening. Just a little bit about what we've been doing. We've been focusing most of our time right now, in addition to doing the plans, with dealing with our residents in our senior apartments. We have over about 700 residents in the 3 apartments, and we've been trying to support them in any way we can so that they stay home and they stay safe. So what we've been doing for them is we've been doing some fitness classes that they've been able to participate with us through their apartments or on their balconies. We've brought in some entertainers to sing to them and play music to them. We've had a mass recently. We've also been providing them with PPE equipment, and on almost literally a weekly basis, we've been providing them with food and support in that way, either meals or some essential goods. We've also formed a team of staff who reach out to them every single day to talk to them, to ask them how they're doing, to ensure that if they need anything, we can potentially help them and facilitate what they need. And just socializing with them, because they're actually doing a great job of staying home. But like all of us, I think they're a little stir crazy, so we're reaching out to them to talk to them and make sure that they're okay and that their families are connected with them as well. A great source of information is our Villa Charities website. So if you go to villacharities.com, you'll see a lot of information, and I would encourage you to keep going there, because as new information becomes available and as we finalize some of the issues around the timing and how we're going to open and what conditions will surround the opening, all of that information will be posted there. So it's the best place for you to go. We've also been offering some online content, so I would encourage you to use that as well. As we look ahead in terms of what we're doing, our top priority, our number one priority, is to make sure that everybody's safe. Our staff are safe. The people who visit our facility are safe. The people who come and use our facility are safe. And we do everything that we can to prevent the spread of this virus in the community. So those are our number one guidelines. When we start to talk about some of the education, some of the information, some of it may seem quite strict to you, but just think about the fact that it's that way because we're trying to protect people as much as we can. You'll see some of our programs as we start to talk about it. Some of them have some limitations on it. Some of them are ideas that we've put forth. Some of them are ideas from the government. And in addition, we'll talk about a number of the things that we're planning on doing. We'll talk about the increased cleaning that's going to be going on throughout the facility. We'll talk about some of the hand sanitization protocols that we have. We also have things around physical distancing. We'll talk about capacity in programs and how some of the programs may operate. We'll share with you some discussions we've had about reduced hours or interruptions between classes so that we can do cleaning. Some of the amenities that you're used to won't be available in the beginning, and we can talk about that. We'll talk about self-screening. We'll talk about some of the signage in the building, what we expect you to do in terms of self-screening, how we are changing some of the entry and exit points in the building so that we isolate people so that we're not congregating as we have flow of traffic in and out of the building. And then we'll talk to you a little bit about some of the other barriers or precautions that we've built into the facility. So that's some of my opening remarks. I'm going to take questions that have been sent in or from the screen while we're having our conversation. Plus, I have a list of about 30 questions that people have submitted already. So if you're okay with it, I'm just going to walk through these questions. I'll read the question and then I'll give you our answer or what our plans are to the best of our ability right now. So we've had a few questions about people who belong to the health club who want access to their locker to get some of their supplies out. Absolutely, we're going to do that. We're just working on a process. What it will be is likely you'll call in, make an appointment. We'll separate people coming in. If you come in during your appointment, you'll be able to go up to your locker and pick up your supplies, your equipment, and then go home. So we're just finalizing that, and then as we have that, we'll roll that out to you. Second question was on the subject of healthcare. The health club will be closed. They're asking if the health club will be closed and will they be charged an extra amount if they become a regular member. So the health clubs, both the male and female health clubs, will be closed for the time being. Everybody will be using the main facility, and yes, we will adjust the prices based on whether you are a health club member or whether you are just a general member and now you have access to fewer amenities. So in all likelihood, the prices for the health club are coming down to acknowledge the fact that people don't have all the services and don't have access to the health club or the main facility, but primarily the main facility. The third question is, when is the gym and the health club and the cafe opening? All of those openings are primarily driven by the government and the government's rollout plan. So in phase one, in the Ford government's announcement last week, the only aspect of athletics that's open right now is the tennis courts. It's the only thing the government allowed us to do, and we opened it up, and we've introduced some additional protocols on people who are using the club. The gym, we're waiting for the government's next announcement. You may have noticed that in the United States, parts of the United States, and in British Columbia recently, they've opened up their gym. We've been following that. We've been making plans based on what's out there. We're waiting for the Ford government to tell us what's happening with respect to the gym. And the third piece in terms of the cafe could open right now. It's a restaurant. We would have to follow the guidelines in terms of capacity of seating. But right now there's nobody in the building, so there's no value in opening up the cafe. If we start to open up some of our services, we'll look at the cafe and we'll look at the traffic through the building. And when it makes sense to open up the cafe, we'll do that. Fourth question was more about lockers and their shoes. Yes, you can absolutely, we'll do that. Next question is about opening the squash courts in the main gym facility. We've talked about the main gym. The squash courts will not open unless the government gives us that direction. If you noticed in the announcement, the first announcement from the Ford government, any types of racket sports that were non-contact, primarily things like badminton, tennis, as long as it was singles, pickleball, those types of racket sports, the government acknowledged could open, but things like squash courts, racquetball courts, that's not on their list right now. We'll see how things change in the future. There's a question here about reading our poster correctly about change rooms will not be available. That's correct. Change rooms will not be available. The entire health club will be closed. There will be no showers. If we have to use the change rooms, depending on the activity, we'll be going through a protocol where we have total control of people going into the change room on a limited basis so that we can clean after they've left. The next question is about limiting how many people are in the gym. If you've noticed what's happening primarily in health clubs, it's an issue of capacity and space. There are a number of ways you can do this. The recommendation for most physical distancing right now is a 6x6 space, but there's information that's coming out recently about the fact that in a health club environment, a 6x6 space is not adequate. So we will likely expand that to perhaps 100 square foot space, perhaps 10 by 10, which we've seen in other health clubs and in other areas who've been opening up their health clubs. We'll look at the physical space within the gym, how much we have. We've just got somebody on the phone. Could you please just mute your phone, please, so we don't get feedback? Thank you. We'll look at the space we have in all of our different operations. We'll look at what the guidelines are suggesting to us. We'll do the calculations, and then we'll determine what the appropriate safe amount of space is, depending on the type of activity. If it's an activity where people are discussing things back and forth, perhaps the 6 square foot space or 36 square foot space is appropriate, but in an activity where people are being active, like a gym, like a yoga class, we're going to allow for greater space between people. That makes more sense, and that's what we're seeing. There's some questions here about credits and closures and fees. We're going to be as accommodating as we can. If people want to cancel their membership or take their on-hold membership off, that's fine. This problem was created by no one in particular. It's no one's fault. We want to be as accommodating as we can to our membership. We understand that everyone has challenges, whether they're financial challenges or just issues with respect to paying it. So if you want to cancel, that's fine. If you want to come back when you feel it's safe, that's great. We'll welcome you back. So we'll finalize exactly how that works, but we'll be as accommodating as we can to people. We're not interested in making things difficult for anybody on any level. Next question is about providing details regarding the opening of the athletic club. We've talked a little bit about that. Really, we're taking our marching orders from the government. The government is going to be very prescriptive in some of these things. We have that issue happening with not only the athletic club, we have that issue happening with camps and with daycare facilities. We'll likely see some very, very prescriptive guidelines around the camps and the daycare facilities. And then we'll probably see more general guidelines around the athletic clubs and what we should do. And really, from the government's perspective, I think in that environment, what it will be is they will give us a date that they feel it's appropriate based on the data that's happening in Ontario. Questions about aquafit classes. None of those, nothing to do with the pool is happening in the first phase. Public pools are closed right now. We anticipate that ours will be considered a public-like pool, so that even though we are allowed to open our athletic facility, unless the government comes out with new directions, they may just say you can't use your pool until further notice, so that's likely going to happen to us as well. And I just want to say to people, if you followed what was happening in British Columbia, things change incredibly quickly. At the beginning of last week, Bonnie Henry, the head of public health in British Columbia, said athletic facilities wouldn't open on Monday, and by Friday they had changed their position, and all of a sudden they were opening facilities. So I'm not suggesting that will happen in Ontario, but what we say today may be outdated by this afternoon or by tomorrow. So follow the news, follow our website, and we'll try to keep you as up to date as we can. Someone's asking us if they can pay extra to use the pool on an individual basis. That's not really something that we're going to encourage or do. We want to be fair to everybody, so if there's access, we want to make sure that everybody has access to it in a safe and controlled fashion. Another question about Aquafit, Health Club. Safety numbers in the gym, absolutely, and we've talked about that. We will do the calculations based on the best available information from industry experts and health experts. We'll do the calculations, we'll provide that information, we'll measure our spaces, and then we'll make sure that both staff and the people using the facility feel comfortable with those numbers, and we'll explain why we have them. We want people to come back, but we absolutely want them to come back in the most safest way possible. Will members be notified of an outbreak? We will absolutely notify you if somebody tells us that they've got COVID. Just remember, this is a personal issue. Nobody's obligated to tell anybody that they have COVID. We're asking people to self-assess. We can't mandate that with the public. We've spoken to legal counsel about that. We will encourage everybody on a daily basis to go through public health self-assessment protocol. And as adults, we hope everybody is responsible, not only to themselves, but to their friends, their family, and the people that they will interact with when they visit our facility. So if you have any of the signs, and literally it seems like every other day another sign is identified as a potential. Today it's loss of taste, so that was on the news today is another sign. There are probably about a dozen of them right now, so you're the best person to self-assess. If we take your temperature, that's one of a dozen ways you could be symptomatic, and you may not even be displaying any symptoms. You may be asymptomatic. So we're going to leave it up to you to decide. And if you have any of those symptoms, please don't visit the site. Change rooms. I talked about change rooms. They'll be closed for the time being, unless we can figure out a way on a very, very limited basis to give people access. Physical distancing, we'll do a couple of things. We've put some protective barriers in the facility in very public-facing spaces, so you'll see them in our information desk. You'll see them in the entry point as you go into the fitness facility, and you will see them in the cashier's office and in the cafe. We're not putting them between equipment at this time. We're going to move some of the equipment out. We're going to make sure that there's a physical distancing space that's appropriate between the equipment. And then there will be lots of signage, either external in the building or internal in the building, on how people should traffic through the building. You'll stay to the right, 6 feet of separation between people as you're in the building, and we'll ask people to respect those distancing protocols. If you're going to use our facilities, it is not going to be on a drop-in basis. You'll have seen this in a number of different sectors. Everything is going to be by appointment. If you want to use our facility, you'll have to book an appointment, you'll have a fixed period of time, and then you'll have to leave. We're doing that so that we can put as many people through the facility as possible, be as fair to people as possible, and give as many people as much access to the facility as possible. We don't want 50 people coming into the building and staying there for 6 hours, which blocks out anybody else coming into the facility. So whether it's a class, a program, an event, we'll follow protocols, we'll define what the number of people can be, and then we'll cycle people in and out of the building. That'll allow us to continue to clean the building on a regular basis, and it will also give us some time to let other people in the building. We're getting some questions on the screen, which is fabulous, and I'll get to those as I'm almost at the end of the list of the pre-submitted questions. Hours of operation, we're revisiting that. We're trying to make the hours as long and as flexible as possible because of the number of people we anticipate coming back, and we want to make sure that we have access for people, whether it's early in the day, middle of the day, or at the end of the day. We've talked about barriers. Cleanliness, we're doing a ton around cleanliness. You'll see a lot more cleaning going on throughout the day. There are hand sanitizers throughout the building. There will be a lot of hand sanitizers in any area that has considerable public activity, so there'll be a lot of sanitizers in the gym, in the dance studios, in the studios where aerobics and Zumba classes are going on, cycling studios. You'll see lots of hand sanitizers in all of those facilities. PPE equipment, staff will be using it. We recommend people who visit our site use it. We would strongly recommend and encourage you to use it when you're doing any activities, but we will ensure that you have physical distancing space as one of the measures to protect you. But the more that you have, the better it will be for everybody. Just to give you a little bit of a sense, as we were doing some of our research, we came across a survey that was done in the US about safety measures that would make gym members feel safe. I'm just going to tell you what they are, and I'm going to tell you what we're doing. So these are the things that were the most important to gym members. Making disinfectant wipes available. We'll have sanitizers everywhere, so we'll address that. Reducing the total gym capacity, we're absolutely going to do that. Reducing class sizes, absolutely. Redesigning group fitness spaces, that's underway. We're looking at moving out some of the equipment so people have a lot more space in there and it's not as packed with equipment and people. Requiring staff to wear face masks, that will absolutely happen in those public spaces. Taking the temperature of gym members upon entry, we're not going to do that. We're asking you to self-assess. As I said, taking people's temperatures is one of a dozen symptoms. People who are asymptomatic don't have temperatures. A study recently indicated that people who were admitted to hospital with COVID, less than 50% of them had a temperature when they were admitted. So it is not a foolproof method. I think the best way for us to protect you is to put in as many measures as we can, and the best way to absolutely protect you is for you to protect yourself through all of the protocols and all of the safety measures that are being recommended by public health. Offering hours for high-risk groups. So we do have a disproportionate amount of people in our health club who are 55 and above, and we're looking at providing dedicated time during the day for that group to use the facility. So we will likely have dedicated hours for people over 55 in the morning and in the afternoon, perhaps in the early evening. So that allows people who are going to work to either use it at the beginning of the day, perhaps on their lunch hour, and then after work. So we're looking at that schedule, and we will make that available. The next thing that people thought was critical is posting signs about mandatory social distancing. We will wallpaper the walls around this building with instructions, physical distancing guidelines, educational things, wayfinding through the building, physical separation. All of that will be very, very obvious throughout the building. We ask you to please read it, be aware of it, and please respect it and follow it. The next thing people asked for was removing excess equipment, so we've talked about that. That will absolutely happen. And holding workout group classes outside. And I know we're thinking about it. We will likely do it if the weather's agreeable. It's a great way for us to have a more expanded facility. It's a great way for us to ensure social distancing. And if the weather is as beautiful as it is today in the next week or two, I think all of us would appreciate being outside in the sunshine and getting some fresh air. So those were the pre-submitted questions. I'm going to look here. Why not accelerate plans to renovate the women's and men's general during the period of shutdown and minimal use? This time is an opportunity to do that. Absolutely. Good question. Excellent question. We finished the men's. We did not do work on the women's and other construction projects because there were restrictions by the guidelines in the Ford government in terms of doing any types of construction. The government has lifted some of those. Let me ask Marco to talk a little bit. There are some financial issues now that we're faced. So do you want to talk a little bit about some of our construction projects and why we're sequencing some, delaying others, etc.?
So there have been a number of construction projects that the board has approved, namely in the men's and women's general health club. We've sourced out prices for those. There's other projects in the building that we are also, important projects need to be done with respect to the climate controlled aspects in the building. At the end of the day, this current environment has taken a bit of a fight. We've taken a bit of a financial beating on this as well, and we need to manage those projects on a priority basis and get the ones that are health and safety, legislative done first, and then we will eventually get to these as well.
Thank you, Marco. Siobhan's saying something to me, I can't hear, so let me read the next question. The next question is, will we need to wear face masks in the gym? We're looking at this, we're studying this. There's mixed opinions on this. We would strongly recommend you do. At least in this first wave, our staff will be wearing it. As I said earlier, we can't impose it on you. And so we're going to try to protect you by making the physical space as generous as possible. We would encourage you to wear a face mask until there's evidence to suggest one way or the other that it is good or not. There is evidence that it does help you. So I would encourage you to do that. We're going to recommend you do that, but legally we can't force you to do that. The next question is about cleaning. From what we've learned about long-term care homes, we're a very different environment than long-term care homes, but I appreciate the analogy. Going forward, will you hire full-time staff for cleaning instead of a service which uses part-time staff and moves them around to different facilities? Good question. We're doing a couple of things on the cleaning front. One is we will have a lot more cleaning that goes on throughout the day in all of the facilities that are being used. So traditionally, most high traffic areas wait till the business day kind of winds up, and then cleaners come in and start cleaning because it makes it more efficient from their perspective. Obviously, in the environment that we're in today, especially in high traffic areas, that model doesn't work. So you'll see dedicated cleaners in a number of different areas throughout the building, particularly in the high touch areas. The athletic facility is one of the areas for sure. We are looking at the model of whether or not we go to our own staff, and then we've also brought in a consultant to do, a completely new consultant to do a complete revisit of our cleaning protocols, practices, staffing levels. Someone who is an industry leader and works in a lot of different environments, in healthcare, in the food industry, and a number of other organizations, to give us their assessment of exactly what equipment we need, what staffing levels we need, what kind of cleaning protocols we need to provide the best, the cleanest, and the safest environment for people. Unless the government comes out and stipulates that people can or cannot work in certain environments, we can't restrict people from working elsewhere. We can hire people to work full-time for us, but that doesn't prevent them from having a part-time job after work or on the weekends and working in any other facility that they choose to. Please review the price. The next question is, please review the pricing for members. Do we have to put our membership on hold? Will we be charged a fee or per visit basis? Thank you. Okay. So we're looking at the pricing. We're not going to force you to put your membership on hold. If you want to cancel it, that's up to you totally. We would love you to keep your membership on hold, but if you choose not to because it's an issue for you financially or for another reason, that's fine. If you choose to come back later, we will welcome you with open arms. Once you join, yes, you're going to be charged a monthly fee. It is not going to be on a per visit basis. That's not the model that we're contemplating.
I have additional questions here.
So Siobhan has some additional questions. She'll read them out and I'll do my best to respond to them.
Can I just add one more question?
Yep, sorry, Marco wants to add something.
So if you put your membership on hold during this period, you will not be charged the $7 regular hold fee that you presently be doing.
Question, what is the plan for the pool? And what about pool programs that were already paid for? Will there be a refund for classes that were not completed or a credit towards future classes?
Okay. So for the pool is off limits right now. According to the government, no public types of pools are available and won't be available until the government gives us the okay to do that. And then once they do, as I said earlier, we'll have to follow all of the physical distancing rules that are being asked of organizations to open it up. Credits, will absolutely give people credits. If people want refunds for programs that haven't started, we will give you your refund. If there is a program that is partway through, have we talked about what we're doing with that?
We can offer either a credit or a refund.
Yep. Either a credit or a refund. As I said earlier, this is a difficult situation for everybody on both sides, for our organization and for everybody. We are not trying to create any issues for people. We're going to be as flexible as we can with the pricing, as flexible as we can with people if they want their money back or a partial credit or whatever. We want to make sure that we treat people as well as we can in this situation.
Can we arrange personal training at the gym?
Have we talked about personal training?
It's one of the considerations that we're looking at as well. With the proper PPE for both parties, we will look at that option.
Okay.
We need to be also sensitive of a trainer. If we have a limit of only 50 people in the gym, and 25 people decide to bring their trainer, that means we're only actually having 25 members in our gym when we're shutting out 25 others. So if we do introduce that, we'll probably put some limitations on how many trainers and when trainers might be able to interact with members. Any other questions?
Next question. You mentioned that moving forward, we will need to make appointments for classes, etc. Will there be an online method to do so? Waiting in a line outside the membership office, I don't think is the best approach given the current climate.
You will have to make an appointment. It will be online, and there will be the ability to phone in. Some people have told us that online access for them is not possible. So there will be both choices. I would encourage you to do the online as opposed to phoning. We are looking at how we bring people into the building and exiting the building so that we don't create corridors of congestion. We absolutely agree around the physical distancing piece. So we are likely going to have a completely separate entrance for the gym and a completely separate exit for the gym. We'll do that for the daycare. We're going to do that for the dance program. And we're going to do that for, what's the fourth one we were talking about? Camps. And then likely a different type of entry and exit for administrative staff and our tenants. We're totally aware of the fact that at that crossover point, you're likely going to have a lot of people. So we don't want people going out of the same door that others are coming in, particularly because we have limited amounts of time. We don't want to create congestion. So it'll be good to pull people out one way and allow new people to come in another way. We're going to be changing our protocols around cleaning as well. We're going to expect users of equipment to clean the equipment. We're going to expect our cleaning staff to clean the equipment after a user has finished using the equipment. And then we're going to expect a new user to clean the equipment before they get on the equipment. So if everybody does their role and does it correctly, there will literally be 3 different separate cleanings of a piece of equipment before anybody uses it. And I think that will help us make people feel safe about the type of equipment, and it will help everybody use the equipment and not be as concerned. And those cleaners will be dedicated in the gym area, and they will be actively cleaning the equipment as users finish a piece of equipment. Are you still going to have the same gym class schedule in the morning with the same instructors? Do you know how many people will be allowed in each class in the studios? So I know the management group in the gym are looking at all of the different classes. Obviously, if we have to limit the numbers, it's going to make it challenging to have exactly the same schedule or exactly the same number of classes. They're going to be looking at the programs, looking for possible consolidation of programs, looking at the amount of people who are participating in programs, and we may have to make some choices about dropping some classes or dropping some programs. We'll see how the numbers roll out and what the guidelines are, and we may have some casualties in terms of classes that we offer, but we'll do our best. We're looking at expanding the hours, as I mentioned earlier, to accommodate people. We're looking at potentially doing some of these activities in other spaces, if we can do them outside or use some of the other spaces that we have. They may not be ideal spaces, but they may allow us to handle having a class and accommodating people, so we will do that as well. And then we've talked about how many we'll have in a class. It's going to depend on what the guidelines are, what the size of our classes are, and what we determine to be a safe space for everybody. Will locker rooms be available to hang coats up and use washrooms? There's going to be washroom use. I would really encourage people not to bring coats, bags in the building. It's a challenge for us to have you use a locker. We're not going to have lockers right now. We're shutting that down. That's not going to be an issue, but obviously we'll have to give you washroom facilities and access to washroom facilities, so that will be something that's available to people. Somebody's asking, can you do a recap and summarize the key changes? Can I say that for a little bit later, because as more people are streaming on, I'll go over that again. That's a great question. The next question is, what's happening with the summer schedule of programs, yoga classes? So as I said just a minute or two ago, it's being worked on. We need some direction from the government in terms of the guidelines. I know the management in the gym is working through the programs, the schedules, the facilities we have, and they'll be ready as they get that final piece of information from the government to roll out a schedule, and we'll share it with you either through email, or we'll share it with you for sure on our website. Unclear what you are saying about washrooms. Can you please repeat? Obviously, if you're in our facility, you'll have to have access to washrooms if you need to use the facilities. That's the only access. We would not encourage you to change in a washroom. If we find that happening, we'll ask you to leave. The washrooms are for washroom use only.
I have additional questions. This one is regarding long-term care. Can you talk about how Villa Colombo in Kleinburg is doing? What is being done to keep the residents and workers safe? What will be the rollout to get building reopened? Okay, so this video conferencing call is really about the Columbus Center and about Villa Charities and the services we offer. Any questions that you have about long-term care, I would strongly encourage you to reach out to either Villa Colombo Vaughan or Villa Colombo Toronto. They both have lots of communication that's going on a weekly basis, multiple times of the week. Villa Colombo Toronto yesterday did a Zoom meeting very similar to what we're doing, where they're sharing information on a regular basis. Villa Colombo Vaughan twice a week puts out a full newsletter to explain what's going on in that facility. They're the most appropriate group to go to if you have a question about their facilities. They can answer all your questions. They can tell you what they're doing for the residents. They can tell you exactly what's happening with the government and what protocols they're following. So that's not the purpose of this meeting. They are the best source to get that information from what's happening in their facility. So I would really encourage you to reach out to them. They're very open at sharing things. They're busy, but they've been doing a great job in terms of sharing the information that's going on in both their facilities. You can also visit Public Health or the Ministry of Health. There's information on their websites talking about what's happening in every facility throughout Ontario. Next question. If we cancel our membership for now and decide to come back once everything is cleared and fine back to normal, will we receive the same rate when we rejoin?
When you come back, likely the first time, your rate will probably be lower. We recognize the fact that facilities aren't 100% available to people. We recognize the fact that you don't have unlimited access to the facilities and can come and go as you please. So as a concession to the fact that people are making sacrifices, we're going to lower our monthly fee until we get back to what's considered normal. So you're likely going to see a price break. We're working on the calculations on what that should be. It will depend on how many of the amenities we can provide to you, but the price is going to go down.
Next question. Are you still going to have the same gym class schedule in the morning with the same instructors? Do you now know how many people will be allowed in each class in the studios?
We talked a little bit about this before. We don't know exactly what the classes will be. We're working on it. We're waiting for some government guidelines in terms of potentially what class sizes will be. We have a fairly good idea by looking at what other provinces are doing. Some are operating at 50% capacity. Some of the research we did in the United States, Texas just opened up their gyms. They're operating at 25% capacity. So it really is being decided individually by different jurisdictions and different facilities. Our number one priority is to make sure it's a safe environment. So we're working on what some of those metrics might be. And as I said, what classes, how many, still working on it. We'll know that within the next week or so. and we'll probably start to roll out some preliminary schedules so that you have a better idea. And as I said, when the government finally comes out with their announcements, if we have to modify those schedules, we'll do that. But I anticipate we'll have some preliminary schedules in the next week or so. So what's will all programs be offered on,
Will all programs be offered online or classes?
I think we're doing a little bit, we're doing digital right now. When we come back and we have access to the facility, I think we'll try to do both to the best of our abilities. Offer some digital classes if we can. And I think we want to grow that program. You're seeing that program's becoming much more acceptable and people are gravitating towards that type of activity. Will all programs be offered online or digital class? Same question, sorry. What is the plan to communicate changes to the members and the public? Mary, do you want to take that?
Sure, of course. So we will actively communicate all changes to the public and to members. I encourage everyone to visit our website at villacharities.com where the information will be posted. But I also encourage everyone to sign up for our bi-weekly newsletter, and we will communicate on a regular basis all updates. If you visit the website, a pop-up window will show up and you can easily sign up for our newsletter. There will also be communications from the individual departments to the members. So our athletic team management will communicate to the members for member-specific information, as would the dance management, childcare, and camps. So I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter and visit our website on a regular basis.
Okay.
Go here, Mary. When will these changes be communicated?
We will communicate the changes as changes are made. So it could be daily if there are changes that are being made daily. We will send out specialized e-blasts if necessary. So we will communicate on a regular basis.
So our website's probably the best place to go for information.
Absolutely.
Our newsletter's a great place to get information. We communicate through social media.
Yes, social media. And again, the website, it will have up-to-date information.
So the website's the best place to go to get information. So there's a question here that says, it's a long question, but I'll read the whole thing. It's a good question. You said 50% of people with COVID do not have a fever, and so you will not be taking temperatures. That was one study that I saw in the United States. You also said that you will be implementing all measures possible to screen out COVID people. Why not take temperatures to screen out people who do have this symptom? There's probably a dozen symptoms right now that are COVID related. We're asking people to do their own self-screening. There's no mandate in the province to do that. You will see in the retail sector and other sectors many people who are perhaps taking temperatures, others who are not. We feel that we can do as much as we can internally in the building to provide safety measures. You are the best person to assess your own health. You're the best person to take your temperature. You're the best person to read through and complete the public health survey to indicate whether you feel lethargic, whether you have issues with taste and smell, and any one of the other number of symptoms. So we think it's most appropriate for you to do that. We're going to encourage you to do that. We're going to post notices for you to do that. But we think you're the person who's most responsible to do that. So we'd like you to do that. I don't feel any comfort the fact that I take your temperature and it's normal and you come in the building and you've given me the onus of taking your temperature to determine whether you're safe or not. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Maybe you're asymptomatic and you have the virus, but you're not showing signs. So really, the best preventative measure here is you self-assessing yourself. Next question is, people may not tell the truth. Absolutely. They may still enter the gym with a fever. Absolutely. So it really is each of us doing our part to protect ourselves, our family, our colleagues, our fellow members, and that applies in our environment that applies throughout society. So really, if you're not feeling well, if you have any of the symptoms, please stay home. It's not worth coming here because you're worried that you're going to miss a class. Stay home, stay healthy, stay safe.
Next question. I recently heard that hand dryers are one of the most contagious areas for the spread of this virus. Any thought on using only paper towels, while not the greatest environmental option, as a preferred way to go?
Yes, all of our bathrooms have paper in them now, and so we would encourage you to do that. We will probably shut down or block off all of the hand dryers. We've seen the same research, and so that's why we're offering the paper towels as well.
Next question, will there be a written version of this meeting placed online? Also, are all the locker rooms going to be closed?
We're recording this session, so you're welcome to look at it on our website. A written version, we'll take all of the questions and we'll provide some answers to all of the questions. We're getting some repeat questions, which is fine. We'll take all of the questions we've got and we'll do a Q&A and we'll provide that on our website. So you can access all the questions if you've come in late or if you didn't get a chance to answer a question. If an instructor feels that a member is a risk to the class, what action should she take to ensure the safety of the class members? So I'm not sure exactly what they consider a risk to the class, but if anybody in any way, shape, or form feels that they are a risk, they should either not attend or we'll ask people to leave. If they're coughing, if they're not feeling well, if they're displaying any signs, we'll take the necessary steps, ensure the person leaves, ensure the person gets home safely, and then do whatever we need to do to make sure the environment is clean and safe for anyone in the class. And we'll likely cancel the class or empty out that space and do a deep clean of that space if anybody displays any active signs. What news about the use of the pool, aquafit, appropriate age, solo swimming? So as I've said a couple of times, the pool is closed, completely closed. There's no aquafit, there's no independent swimming. The city, the government has decided that pools are closed for the time being. We'll follow that. If they change those guidelines, we'll revisit the guidelines and we'll see what we can and can't do in our environment.
Next question, is there a limit on how many times you can use a gym per week? If slots are available, is daily allowed? What is the day limit? So
once a day would be our preference. It all depends in terms of the other questions, in terms of slots being open, how many times a week. It's going to depend on how many people decide to come back to the gym. Some people, as you watch the news, are very actively wanting to go back to what normal life is and normal gyms. Some people are standing on the sidelines, either because they're just absolutely not going to come back regardless of what the environment is, and other people want to assess what the environment looks like, what we're doing to make sure that you're safe before they make a decision. So depending on what and how that looks and how many people feel that they want to come back to the gym, there could be opportunities to come more than once a day, but our preference right now, we're assuming, is once a day. There may be opportunities if classes have vacant spots that people can register. We'll work on the time issues for that. And what was the last question? Frequencies. What was the question? You read it. Sorry, let me go back. Is there a limit on how many times you can use a gym per week? Yeah, again.
If slots are available,
Yep.
is daily allowed?
Yep.
And what is a day limit?
Yep. Again, daily use, weekly use, signing up for classes, all of that's is going to change literally daily, depending on how many people decide to come back to the fitness facilities. If no one comes back, there's lots of available space. If everyone decides to come back, it's going to be a challenge to accommodate everyone. Will there be greater frequency cleaning the studio floors prior to classes? Absolutely. There won't be back-to-back classes without cleaning any of the studios. There will be an interval of time to clean the studios completely before the next class starts. Will Cafe Cinquecento open when the gym opens? Again, the cafe will depend on the traffic of people coming through, whether it's gym members, whether it is staff coming back, whether it's people using some of our studios. So both of those are linked. If the cafe opens, I can tell you that there will be reduced seating. There are capacity guidelines out there. And there will be not people who are seated in the cafe will be in the cafe because they're eating or drinking. We won't be using the cafe as a waiting spot. I'm going to tell you, I'm not sure we covered this in there, but there are no waiting areas in the building. Everybody will wait outside, either in your car or a lineup. And as I said earlier, we're going to have multiple entry and exit points in the building so that when people are waiting, they are not congregating with a number of other people. But there will be no waiting in the building. There are no seating areas left in the building. You will not wait in the cafe. You'll be asked to leave. There's no seating in the lobby. There's no seating in the gallery anymore. There's no seating by the music rooms. It's all been removed. Next question is, are there plans to redo the catalog of programs for the fall and winter schedules? Mary, you want to handle that?
Yes, we will produce a program guide for the fall-winter season. It will be a digital copy only. We will not print copies, but that is in the works.
And we're not printing copies for a couple of reasons. One is, honestly, it saves us money, and as Marco said earlier, there are financial challenges that we're facing as well. And two is we anticipate that as the days and weeks and months go by, we may have the ability to open or offer more classes and sessions. So printing a copy is likely going to be out of date as those days and weeks go by. If it's a digital format, it'll allow us to change things on the fly and then share that with you so that you have the most current up-to-date schedules. Next question is, why not use some of the other spaces, the health club, squash courts for individual personal training sessions? Absolutely. We're looking at that for sure. If you saw in the first phase of the government's reopening, the only racket sport they allowed was that we offer is tennis. But you're absolutely right. There are squash courts and there are racquetball courts. And we will look at those as available space to potentially have sessions. Next question is, there are no plans to change the fall 2020 schedule of programs. I wouldn't say there are no plans. I would say it depends on how this rolls out in the different government phases. It will depend on if there's a second wave of this pandemic. So I think everything is literally up in the air. And we will respond in as timely a fashion as we can based on what's happening in Ontario and what the government's recommendations and guidelines are.
Next question, how and when will people be communicated about picking up their belongings in the lockers?
Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Marco?
So we will be rolling out a process for you to either call in, email, and set up a set time to come in and pick up your belongings.
You won't be able to just drop in and ask to pick up your stuff. It will be the same process that we're using with classes. You need to register, have an appointment, come in. We can ensure that you get safely to your locker and then safely back out of the building and not have any issues with other people who may be doing the same thing in their schedule.
Next question, can my current credit go towards the new rate? That's the member health club.
Yes, we'll make sure that if you have a credit and you want to apply it to a future time period, a future rate, we'll absolutely facilitate that. We'll absolutely accommodate that. No more questions? I don't think we have any more questions. There's no more questions coming in online.
Oh, there's a question just popped up.
Another question. Can we leave things in our lockers if we don't need them for a while? Absolutely, unless it's a tuna sandwich, we want you to come and get it. But no, you're absolutely allowed to leave things in your lockers, and you're absolutely allowed to come and get things out of your lockers, just as we said, make an appointment, and we'll do our best to accommodate you so you can get whatever you want, but you can absolutely leave anything in your locker that's there right now.
Next question, when do we need to advise you to put our account on hold with no fee, and for how long can we put it on hold?
So your accounts are presently on hold, and there are no fees. The $7 hold charge is not being applied. So for the time being, they are on hold
And there's no fee.
without fees.
So there's nothing you need to do right now, it's on hold and there's no fee. I don't see any other questions. We'll give you 30 seconds if anybody's typing quickly and wants to ask a question. We'll likely do another one of these sessions maybe in another week or so, just depending on what's changing, what information. As I said earlier, I would really encourage you to continue to look at our website. And I'm just going to go back if anybody has a question, because somebody asked what we're doing in terms of safety measures. So I'm going to go through this, and this thing I'm reading from is right on our webpage. It's literally the first thing you'll see when you go on our webpage. So let me just go through it. We're increasing the cleaning throughout the facilities, including cleaning equipment, physical spaces. We're going to be cleaning between classes and activities and between the uses of equipment. So lots of cleaning going on. We will beef up our cleaning staff, obviously, and we will dedicate people so that if you're in an environment, particularly the gym, you'll see a cleaner or two or whatever the magic number is for us to do the right job there all the time doing cleaning. We'll also be increasing the number of personal hand sanitization stations, and there will be lots and lots of bottles of hand sanitizer around for people to use. If you don't feel comfortable using the ones that are available, please bring anything that you want to make yourself feel safer in our environment. Our staff are going to be wearing face masks for staff who interact with the public, particularly in those public areas. We encourage you to wear a face mask for your activities. We're asking people to do a self-assessment. That's something that we've talked about, so we really strongly encourage you to do that. There are a number of them out there. We're recommending the one from Public Health, but there are others that Apple produced, that Google produced. They follow a similar pattern. Some of them are even more detailed in terms of the questions, so I would encourage you to look at them. They're all very, very good. Physical distancing, we will be putting lots of signage up. There will be lots of markings in the facility to help people with respecting that physical distancing piece. There's going to be floor markings. There's going to be lots of communication throughout the building about other barriers, other protections, other ways that we want you to move in and out of the building. We talked about building entry and exit points. We're going to limit the amount of traffic through them, and we're going to have multiple dedicated areas where we want people coming in and out. In some areas, we'll be working off the principle of 50% capacity. In other areas, you may find out that we are using a different measure, and that's because of the type of activity that's going on in those areas. If you're sitting at a table having a coffee, you're likely going to be in a 50% capacity model. If you're actively participating in an exercise program, you're likely going to be looking at a different model that provides more space between you and other people in that environment. We talked about the fact there's no waiting and seating areas. And then the last piece I haven't mentioned is virtually all of the registration for programs and things like that and classes will be online. And all of the payments will be by tap or credit card or debit card. We're not going to be accepting cash for the time being. We have a few more questions. Where do we find out about current digital classes being held by the Columbus Center? Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So currently, the digital classes or workouts for athletics you would find through social media. So I encourage you to follow the Athletic Club on Instagram or Facebook. Similarly with dance through their Instagram. So through social media is the best way to find those programs.
Next question is, any idea when we will get back, July or August? So getting back really depends on the government. It doesn't depend on us, it depends on the government. And as I said earlier, some of these things change quite quickly. You've seen it in the United States. I mentioned earlier what British Columbia did. You know, at the beginning of a week, they said gyms would stay closed. At the end of the week, they decided to open them up. I don't know what the Ford government is going to do. The Ford government opened up phase 1 last week. Their interval of times between phases is 2 to 4 weeks. And whether they move to the next phase depends on any type of clinical metrics that they're following in terms of what's happening in the province. So if they see the curve flattening, if they see the numbers going down, they may come a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now and say it's okay to move to phase 2. If they don't see those positive signs, they may decide to delay phase 2. So we're pretty much following their guidelines and respecting their guidelines because we absolutely have to, and we'll do it. When you reopen, will there be a $7 hold fee if we want to wait and see? No, we're not going to. No, we're not going to do that. We want you to come back. When you come back, you'll pay. If you want to wait and see and sit on the sidelines, we're not going to charge you anything. You know that we appreciate the support we get from the athletic members. We appreciate people's enthusiasm to get back, but we don't want you to make a decision based on economics. We want you to make a decision because you feel comfortable and safe. So take your time, and when you feel safe and comfortable, we will welcome you back, absolutely. The comments about testing. Very informed, thank you. Can members pay for services over the phone, online, or do they have to come in person to pay? We absolutely would encourage you to call us or do it online. Don't come in person. The less people that come through the building right now, the better it is. If for some reason you absolutely have to come into the building for whatever reason, you'll have to make an appointment. The people you're dealing with are going to figure out a process, a room, an environment that's going to be safe for you and for them, and we'll deal with you on a one-on-one basis, but really that is the exception. We would really prefer you either call us or do it online. Please post those classes to the website. Many people do not have or want access to social media. Yes, as we've said a couple of times, the website, your absolute best place to go.
And they are. I should have mentioned that if you visit the website, there are sliders, and one of the sliders references these workout classes for the gym. So you can access it from the website.
Okay.
Next question, what do you think the minimum time limit per workout will be?
About an hour. We're looking at about an hour, and probably an hour, depending on the amount of traffic through the building. If we find that very, very few people are coming back, we're going to have a lot more flexibility with those schedules. If we find that a good number of people are coming back, because of the limitations on class size, we want to probably stay to an hour. It gives us time to clean, and it gives us time to have other people who want to access the facilities have an opportunity to come back as well.
And the question, another follow-up question, a maximum number?
Again, the maximum number, as we've talked about, really will depend on the guidelines and on our physical space and on the type of activities. When we have a better handle on that, we'll absolutely share it with you. It'll be on our website, and it will be what informs us in terms of how many people you see in the gym, how many people you see in a particular class or a program. Right now, the government's limit to congregating is 5 people. I'm sure they'll relax that a little bit as they get into what types of businesses they're allowing to open, and in our particular case of its athletics, there will be other criteria at play. Same thing with the gym. Somebody's asking the same question regarding time in the gym and the classes. We're probably sticking to about the same schedule, about an hour each time.
So I have a next question which ties into this question from the same person.
No health clubs are going to be open, women's or men. We're only going to have the main gym open.
Follow-up question to that, will it be possible to use the women's health club locker room anytime soon?
No, both the women's and the men's health club for the foreseeable future are going to be closed. If additional information comes out that allows us to open some of those facilities, we'll revisit it, but you need to appreciate that the locker room environment, that a sauna, that a whirlpool, those environments are not going to allow for social distancing, so they're not going to be available. So right now it's the main gym for everyone. And we'll reduce your rates, we'll reduce your fees to account for the fact that you have that gym, and we'll reduce your rates and fees because you don't have access to some of the other equipment that you might otherwise have or other amenities. Any other questions?
No, Maya.
Okay. I think we've exhausted the questions. I hope this was helpful. I want to thank everybody who's participated on the video and absolutely everybody who's been on the call as well. I hope you found this useful, and as I said, please stay tuned. The information is changing every day. I know our staff are all working on their reopening plans and having as much detail as possible. Mary said it earlier, it'll be on our website, and you're likely going to get communications from the specific areas to each of you to give you information about what's happening in your particular area. And again, if you have questions, by all means reach out to us, send it to our main information email address, or if you have Siobhan's email address, send it to her, and we'll just continue to populate a Q&A, and we'll have answers to the questions as they become available and as people submit them. So again, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. Please stay safe. Please stay healthy. And I hope to see all of you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.